Are the Pittsburgh Steelers creating a real issue with one of the most important position groupings on the entire roster? I think that may be the case, and I think the Pittsburgh Steelers need to wake up and wake up now. Welcome back to Mike Drop Sports, everybody, here on a Wednesday. I want to dive into something that I think is of utmost importance and maybe not getting the attention that it needs to get, and maybe I am blowing it out of proportion a little bit right now, but I feel it is one of those position groupings and one of those spots on the field that is so very important, and that is the offensive line, guys. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers and their musical chairs type game with the tackle position, I think is creating a real issue here. An issue that I could see really having a monster effect on this football team. And then you look at these front 9 games of the Pittsburgh Steelers schedule. There is urgency there, guys. You have to come out of that front 9 with an exceptional record. You have to really be on a roll because you are facing the NFL's most historic, toughest schedule in quite some time, if ever. You are facing a schedule that is very difficult in the back half, and you cannot afford to stumble in the front half, the front 9 games. You have to be able to do well and really solidify your identity in those 9 games. And that really brings me to this offensive line because I think it's something that has to be fixed and fixed now. And I think the Steelers are creating a lot of these issues but on their own, by themselves. They're self-inflicted wounds. I think when you're playing the game of where Broderick Jones will play, right or left, playing the game of, Dan Moore says he can't go over to the right, but we're going to waste our first-round draft pick over here on the right, and then we have another first-round draft pick at the tackle position that we're going to just sit and let learn. I just think you're creating an issue that you don't need to create, and I think it could be a fatal flaw. A fatal error for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think offensive line groups need as many reps, even if it's football and shorts and a helmet, as many reps as possible to get their mentals right, to get that vision right. You're playing in an Arthur Smith offense this season that is going to be a zone run scheme. That is a little bit different. You're blocking areas now. You're not just particularly heads up blocking the guy in front of you type deal. You need to be able to move around, have speed and agility, be athletic, have good field vision, and hit the first thing you see when you're running through these areas, these designated spots in which you're responsible for as an offensive lineman in terms of blocking. You need to be able to know your assignments, know your jobs. And I think when you're like a guy like a Broderick Jones, for instance, whom was drafted inside of the top 15 picks of the NFL draft in 2023, a guy that was highly touted to be the franchise tackle at the left side for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think he needs to be inserted there. If that is your plan for Broderick Jones and that is what you are going to do, then make sure you get it done now. And if your plan is to leave him at right tackle and allow Dan Moore Jr. to continue to stumble and falter over there on that left side, that's fine. Is Dan Moore a poor player? No, he's not. I think he is a good NFL athlete, but I don't think he is an everyday starting caliber type left tackle, at least not right now in his career. Could he develop into it? Possibly, and I wish him nothing but the best. But right now, as it sits, I feel like Dan Moore Jr. didn't perform to the level that he was expected to last year at that left tackle spot. I feel like that was a deficiency, especially in the pass game, in my opinion. I felt like the run game, he was very serviceable, but in that pass game, I felt like that he really had some major holes and major deficiencies in his game. But you look at this and you say to yourself, what are your plans with those 2 players alone? Then here in 2024, you throw into the mix another top 20 draft pick at the offensive tackle position, and that is Troy Fautanu. What are your plans for Troy? Is it the right tackle spot? Is it the left tackle spot? And I'm okay with it. I don't care and I don't think anybody in Steelers Nation should care which side these guys play, but find a damn spot. Pick a spot. Get these guys going. Get them familiar with what they're doing. And if you're going to just insert Troy Fautanu to be the replacement for Dan Moore Jr., don't have him practice in the right side. Just let him go to the left side. Have him shadowing the guy he's going to replace. If Dan Moore Jr. is going to be the guy that, guides and molds a Troy Fautanu, Put them both on the right side if your plans are for Broderick Jones to be on the left. But my whole point of this is you have to find a place. You cannot continue to play the musical chairs. You are creating an issue, a self-inflicted wound, and you can't afford to do that if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I don't think that it's getting enough airtime here. I don't think that it's being talked about. Everybody wants to talk about the flashy positions, the wide receiver, the quarterback, the running back, the DBs, these flashy positions, these highly athletic positions. No. The most athletic position, the position that means the most, are the trenches. Those are the both sides of the football, the defensively and offensively. Defensively, I think there's still some deficiencies there. I think there's some players that are out of place in terms of where they're playing, size-wise, and things of that nature. That conversation is for another day. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. But today, right now, we're focusing on this offensive line, and I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are making a real error. Creating themselves a real issue for no apparent reason when they don't have to. Don't accommodate a guy like Dan Moore Jr., whom you know damn well isn't fitting into your plans, isn't going to be the guy in the future. You have 2 first-round talents at the tackle position. Like, come on, bro. You ain't gonna, you're giving them a chance. They're first round picks. You're not gonna leave them never getting a chance to be the starter, being the guy without looking at them and letting them walk without ever trying them out there as first round talents. We all know that. We know what their plans are. But do the Steelers? Do the Steelers know their plans, guys? I just think it's really important for offensive line groupings to get as many reps together as humanly possible. I've heard many offensive linemen in my days of just talking football with people, guys that have played at a really, really high level, talk about how they love to get enough reps with guys so they know what each other is going to do. After you've played with groups for a couple years in a row, you don't have to talk. You don't have to call out some of these calls every time because you know the man beside you, the player beside you knows exactly what is going to go down, and they know their assignment on every individual play, and the communication becomes almost more telepathic than anything. And that's what you want it to become. You want it to become second nature for these guys. And you look at guys like Zach Frazier, who are going to be forced to start early and often as the center. Rookie year, he's going to have to be at the anchor position of this offensive line. He's going to need consistency. And that means consistency everywhere. He's going to be making calls. He's going to be making adjustments on that line. He's going to be the quarterback of that offensive line. And he's got to have guys that he knows what they're going to be doing. And he's going to have guys that are on the edges that really he can trust. And he knows what is going to happen here when he makes certain calls, certain adjustments. He knows they know what they're doing. He can't be having 1,000,001 things running through his head. The quarterback of the offensive line has to be comfortable in the people around him, the players around him, and it all starts there. But if you're playing the 2 most important positions besides center on the offensive line, which is the tackle positions, the guys that really truly protect the quarterback from these elite pass rushers in the NFL today, you really, really, really got to have these guys know exactly what they're doing and have that consistency and have that continuity across that group, because I think you're asking for a real problem. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers absolutely cannot afford to take a stumble in these first 9 weeks. And I keep emphasizing that, guys. And I think that if the Pittsburgh Steelers sit here and still become, overthinking maybe this situation that they have in terms of who's playing where on the tackle positions, how this line is going to shake up, and they continue to just second guess themselves and question what they're doing and looking at this person, looking at that person. I think that they are creating an error and creating a time to where this offensive line at the beginning in that front half of the season is going to need all those 9 weeks to really gel. And can you afford to take a loss because your offensive line was just totally out of sorts one game and you lose to a weak team? Can you afford to do that if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you have to run that horrible strength of schedule in the back half? Can you afford to do that? That's the real question. And if you're Mike Tomlin, Sometimes I think he holds rookies back a little bit too much. I think if you're ready, you're ready, and I think it is what it is. I know he tries to protect them as players and really tries to get their career started out on the right foot, and I applaud that. But I think sometimes he overdoes it and holds them back just a little bit too much. And I think it creates an issue sometimes when you're watching substandard, subpar play out there at guys that are, in that same position, maybe just a veteran that is out there performing at a subpar level, and you have a rookie there that could perform a hell of a lot better, and you're hesitant to pull the trigger because you're so-called protecting them from themselves, I guess. I don't know what he's protecting them from, allowing them to learn. Maybe the learning curve comes whenever you're out on that football field in live game action. Maybe that learning curve comes from right now, making sure you're in a solidified position like these tackles, making sure they know where they're going to be so they can start to understand their assignment. Again, especially in this zone run scheme, to where you're going to have to be able to move around and pull around and be highly athletic and really start to understand how this scheme works. And you can't afford to just be everywhere, this way, that way. You can't afford to do it, especially if you're a young guy, a young rookie like Troy Fautanu. Hell, even a second-year guy like a Broderick Jones, a first-year guy like Zach Frazier. Thankfully, they have two veteran guards that I think are really going to be able to hold this group together in a big way. But still, you got to learn, and you got to learn as a group, and you got to become cohesive. But the whole point of this whole topic today, guys, is I want to hear what you guys have to say about this situation. Are the Pittsburgh Steelers creating a real issue for themselves? Are they creating a real problem at the offensive line group as a whole? Are they creating a fatal error for themselves to where they may stumble at the beginning part of the season because they've yet to really solidify that offensive line grouping, and you have all this first round amazing talent at your disposal, and maybe you're just overthinking it. Maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers are just, nervous on the pull the trigger at certain positions. I don't know. They're maybe worrying about making a mistake there and picking the wrong guy. Who knows? But I want to hear about what you guys have to say about that, and what you guys, think about this situation. And are the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin being overly cautious with certain players? Or do they need to get these guys in exact positions now before it becomes too late and they can't get the quality reps that they need as a complete group? Is that an issue? Just sound off and let me know what you guys really, really, truly think about this Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line and exactly what it means to you moving forward here into the 2024 season in terms of importance and in terms of these first 9 games and how this is all going to look. And we'll see how what all you guys have to say and what your comments you always have great comments. So we'll talk back and forth. We'll talk some football, and we'll talk about this situation. Also, I'll bring it up a little bit tonight on Steel City Live, as always. Our show tonight, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the show. It's going to be a good one. And then we will be moving our time. We'll be on Steelers Nation Australia at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, Mike Drop Mafia, let's travel well. Let's travel over there with me and show out, show up, and really show what we can do and how we move and travel as a group, as a community here on YouTube. So until tonight for Steel City Live, and then I'll be a special guest on Steelers Nation Australia. Until then, I'm Jason. This is Mike Drop Sports. Peace.